I am just super stoked for my teensy tiny starter garden with 4 beds. My daughter, 4 years old, grew the tomatoes and the marigolds from seed, and we grew the green beans, and they have just taken off in the last week or so. I'm gonna water these also, but I am so excited! Yay! You're probably noticing that I'm not in the new house. This is the kitchen for our old house, where I've lived for the past 10 years. And I'm getting ready to can the green beans that came out of the garden. So I'm really excited about that, the new garden up at the new house. Now, there's a little hitch in my giddy up, which is that all of my canning supplies are boxed up in the attic of the new house. So I'm gonna have to be a little bit creative here. But I'm looking forward to sharing with you one of my favorite pickled green bean recipes. So this one came from my godmother, and it is per quart, so pay attention to that. I'm actually not going to be using a quart jar because it's too tall for the pot that I'm going to be using as my water bath canner. Normally a water bath canner is pretty tall, but that one is actually at the new house. So I'm going to be using 2 pint jars instead. There's 2 pints in a quart. That should work out just fine. I've got my lids and my rings set out here. And this basil came not from my garden, but it will in the future. Came from a local garden. I participate in a local food co-op, which is fantastic. I get to do my shopping Sunday mornings from the comfort of my bed, and then the groceries get delivered on Thursdays, which is pretty sweet. But these are green beans that came out of our new garden. They're precious. The garlic also came from the food co-op. Salt and vinegar came from the local, big grocery store. I'll leave that up to your imagination. And judge me if you will, but I hang on to the red pepper packets from Round Table and other pizza places, and I use them in my canning and in my cooking. So that's what we're going to use here. Let's get cracking. So I'm going to need 4 cups of beans. This may be a little shy, but that's okay. I'll just compensate with garlic. I always compensate with garlic. I love garlic. The recipe originally calls for 2 garlic cloves. I don't know anybody, my godmother included, who actually stuck to just 2 garlic cloves. Garlic is delicious. Teaspoon of salt. 10 fresh basil leaves, so I'll snip those off with my thumb and forefinger, as one does. And then the few red peppers that I talked about. And then what you're going to do actually is take 1 1/3 cup of white vinegar plus a cup of water, mix that together, heat it up in a pot. So let me light a fire first under my pot that's going to be my canner pot. And I'll cover that to conserve a little energy while that's heating up. I'll heat up the vinegar and the water. I'm going to pack these into the jars with the spices and the garlic and all that jazz. And then I'm going to pour the vinegar water mixture, once it's very hot, over them. You want to leave a 1/2 inch headspace because when things heat up, they expand. And if you don't leave that headspace, they have nowhere to go. That's one of the reasons that people don't get good seals on their jars. Then once you have everything taken care of and you have the lids and the rings set, you want to shake that jar so that all the spices get mixed around there. Then you process it for 10 minutes in the boiling water. Let it cool undisturbed for 12 hours, which is pretty standard for any canned goods. And then after 6 weeks, you get to enjoy the goodness. All right, I've got my water and vinegar mixture heating up there, my lid on my canner. Now I'm going to pack these jars. Something important, since I'm using 2 pint jars instead of 1 quart jar, I actually need to cut all my measurements in half when I'm putting things in the jars. So, for example, the recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt. So I have my half teaspoon measurement here. I'm going to put 1/2 teaspoon in this jar, and then I'm going to put 1/2 teaspoon in this jar. I'm going to do the same thing with my round table crushed red pepper. I'm going to put about half the packet in each one, maybe a little less. Yes, I reuse my jars. It's not a big deal. You just sterilize them in hot water and they're good as new. So there's my salt and my red pepper. I can put just a couple more flakes in there. You don't have to feel like you can use the whole, have to use the whole thing. I don't know about you, but if I weren't doing this, I would just toss them out completely or not get them at all in the first place, but sometimes they throw them in anyway. And, so it's really not a waste, even though it's a little bit of a waste. The video of me prepping the garlic did not wind up transferring, so I wanted to let everybody know that the best way to prep garlic is to smash it with your knife before you peel it. That helps release the oils, which gives it more flavor, and it also makes it easier to peel that paper covering off of each clove. Here's where the pint jars get a little annoying because they're shorter than quart jars, so I'm going to have to cut some of these green beans in smaller pieces to get them to fit with that headspace. My green beans are all prepped. Now I'm going to put them in these jars. I have not packed this totally full of beans yet, but I'm going to stop now and put the basil in. So pinch with your thumb and forefinger. This is purple basil. Normally you would use regular green, like Genovese basil or whatever you happen to have. The purple basil is just a nice color, and I'll show you the end result of that. All right, now because I'm working in multiple jars, before I go too much further, even though I've still got a little bit of room there, I'm going to fill that other jar first so that I can make sure that I have somewhat equitable amounts in both jars. Yeah, in an ideal world, want these packed a little bit more tightly than this with beans, but it'll be just fine, and they'll be very delicious. All right, it's time to add our hot liquid. So this is the water and vinegar mixture.
Mom, can you please have some raspberries?
Yeah, I'll get you some in just a minute, honey.
Just so you know, I ate all the blackberries.
You ate all the blackberries?
Yeah.
Poor Daddy didn't get any. Mama didn't get any either, really. Okay, so now our lids are on and our rings are on. And we're gonna shake them up.
I can shake that one.
You know what, sweetie? It's hot and it's glass, and I don't want you to get burned or break the glass. So this is gonna be a mama job. But I'm gonna teach you how to do this sooner over later.
Okay.
Of course, my canning tongs are up at the new house, so wish me luck. We're gonna drop that gently in. There we go. And we'll put the lid on. 10 minutes in the canner here, or what's passing for my canner. My timer just went off, so I'm going to turn off the stove. You can hear it stop bubbling. Now again, that's hot water, and I don't have my canning tongs handy, so I'm going to pull out my ladle, and I'm just going to ladle the hot water out. Now, I'm just going to stick it in this pot because I wasn't going to reuse that water vinegar mixture that was left over, and this way I don't have to take boiling water all the way to the sink and probably spill it on my foot and burn myself in the process. Now, if you have any concerns about whether your jar is sealed properly, or if you just, don't trust recipes like this, that's fine. Botulism is a real thing. So your option there is to keep them in the fridge. And to be honest with you, I totally have done that. I have a jar in the fridge right now that wasn't submerged enough in the water bath here to make me happy. So I played it safe. I stuck it in the fridge. I'm still gonna wait 6 weeks for it to pickle. And then that's gonna be the first jar that I eat. But look at that. Pretty beautiful. Now that they've come out of the canner, and after their 12 hours is up, shaking them will continue to mix around all the goodness. And the beans themselves, if I'd packed them more tightly in there, they would have sunk, you know, to the bottom because they would be packed in there. So I may actually store them upside down periodically just to make sure that both ends are submerged and getting what they need. But yeah, that headspace is a must because, as you can see, you can't see it right now because the liquid in there is so hot. I like to cover them up with a dish towel because it's kind of an out of sight, out of mind type of a deal. And we'll be back for them in the morning. All right, it is the next morning and it is time for the unveil. So the reason that it's that pink color that you also saw last night is because the basil is purple. If you use regular basil, you won't get that color, but it's kind of pretty. I like it. I have also put nasturtium flowers in this recipe, and that was really, really nice. There's all kinds of little tweaks you can make to it to make it your own, but I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share.